this thing takes off. Today we're going to talk about your long-term project. It seems like every time I come check out your builds, I either get vertigo from riding with you because the cars are so fast, or I hurt my butt somehow by not being able to sit in an
Not
actual
having
seat.
a seat.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun things when I get to shoot with you, but this is the project that I've seen you work on for so many years. How long have you been working on this?
Oh man. Well, since the day I bought it, which was 17 years ago, but like the real conversion, I think, was 12 years ago when it started, and it hasn't stopped. But that's part of the problem.
I've seen Porsches get on three wheels, especially on autocross, but I've never seen a Porsche get on three wheels on a road course. And that's what this does on street tires, not on our compounds, not on really sticky tires. Just on normal street tires, when you're doing the hairpin at Streets of Willow, I cannot believe you're lifting a tire.
Yeah.
And it's probably on multiple corners too.
Yeah, it's just about any time you get to load up the rear. You know, because being that it's a semi-trailing arm car, like all 911s, you only get camber gain under compression. You don't get toe change. So they're pretty loose. You know, so I set the cars up pretty soft and compliant, as you know. But this is really important to have it compliant. So yeah, not a whole lot of sway bar, and you're you know, the front wheels just end up acting as a rudder. You know, you see the old videos of these cars that, you know, back in the day racing in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. They were all loose. They were all hanging it out, you know, and that's because that was the fast way to drive them.
This could not be further from the vehicle that you started with. So then, was this a stock vehicle when you bought it?
Mostly. It was like an autocross car, you know, DE car. You know, it had some basic upgrades here and there, all of which are gone. But yeah, it was a 3.2 Carrera, it's, you know, stock engine, stock transmission, and, you know, like I said, basic upgrades, like a short shifter, and, you know, like I think it had maybe a cat delete, you know, for up in the Northwest. But really, like I said, all of it's gone, and it's become something of my own creation and my personality, an extension of my personality.
And more recently, I see there's a lot more carbon bits on it.
Yeah, this was a collab with Son of Cobra, and as you remember, the wing was always of my design, but with an original rubber that we reshaped and painted. But being that it's rubber, it would crack all the time, and it was heavy, so it drove me nuts. And finally, we just said, let's do it, and we made a mold of my wing. And we only produced 2 wings before we destroyed the mold. So myself and one of my clients are the only ones with this wing.
Why did you destroy the mold?
It wasn't intentional.
Oh no!
Yeah, it was heartbreaking for both me and Paul. So it failed, and we had to destroy it.
This is such a beautiful piece.
Yeah, and it's ultra light. I think it's less than 10 pounds.
And it's functional too.
Yeah.
So then, I'm gonna do something different. Usually we start on the outside and then get to the engine bay.
Yeah.
Let's just start on this portion, since the engine, of course, I think is the highlight of this build, and then we'll go around.
Yeah.
If that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's just pop this. What a piece. Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That's what's so heartbreaking about, like, that's it, you know. Until maybe someday we go back and, you know, use this as the plug to make another mold. But
how long did it take for you to develop something like this then?
Well, the idea was a very long time. As far as for him, it was probably, you know, an 8 to 12 week process, you know. So between his usual workload and my usual workload, it's a lot.
I just cannot believe the craftsmanship. Like, some of it is clear coated, finished, and you can see the raw carbon here.
Yeah.
Is there anything else on the market that exists that's like this?
I don't think so. I mean, most of what he does, because he's such a craftsman and basically a one-man show with, you know, helpers here and there, you know, it's to have something of that detail and limited production is kind of, it's rare.
One of two.
Yep.
Okay, so let's talk about the engine then.
Since about 2010 or 2012, I can't remember, somewhere around there, is when we originally built the long rod 3.6 that this is. But On 2 separate occasions, it's been redone. Just recently, redid this. It was a collaboration between Jeff Gamroth and Cornelius Goritz of Goritz Six Fix. So now it's got Mala Motorsport pistons and Carrillo rods, but other than that, it's all the same. Has a GT3 crank, has a GT3 oil pump, individual throttles, 997 cup intake manifold, Motec. We have cats on it now, so there's catalysts, and then a 991 GT2 titanium center muffler.
What?
Yeah.
How the heck? Talk about a hybrid of all. It seems like so many generations of Porsche.
Yeah. I mean, it honestly is, and a lot like some of the projects in there, where I'll have 5 or 6 cars into one car. And then there's the generations of knowledge. I've been working on these cars for 25 years, and some of it, the cars from the 60s, and then obviously right up to the modern 992 stuff now.
So then, I don't know too much about Porsches. I love them so much. Is this the original block that you?
No, this had a 3.2. It was a 3.2 Carrera, which was the first fuel-injected 911 motor, which was awesome. But, in true fashion, it wasn't enough. So I got a retired race car engine from an RS America. So it was a 3.6 twin plug, as it still is, but everything original is gone. So just the case halves are original, and maybe the heads have been redone, but it is the same heads and all that.
So then, all said and done, how much does the RS America make stock versus what it is now?
I feel like they made like 260 horsepower or something like that, if I remember or if I recall. But now it's 360. It's 360 horsepower and 285 foot-pounds of torque.
And then does that run on race gas or?
No, that's on pump gas.
Wow.
Yeah, it's good. It's strong. Some of the best motors, the benchmark is 100 horsepower per liter. There's a few that are above that, but typically that comes at a cost of either running race fuel or maybe low end torque is spared.
And then that's to the wheels also.
No, that's to the crank.
Okay,
that's to the crank. Yeah,
got it.
Yeah, so it's it's really strong. It revs to 8,000 RPMs, which is plenty. It still is a street car, and still runs on pump gas. But it works well. The long rod configuration is great for torque. That's why the torque numbers are pretty happy. But that's all amazing when you count in the fact that this car weighs 2,300 pounds of wet.
Wow.
And that's wet with 21 quarts of oil.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's basically an endurance race oil system. That's what they had, about 21 quarts on the 993 RSR, and that's what this has. We moved the tank from the rear of the car, and it's up in the nose where in the smuggler's box, they called it, which is where the air conditioning stuff used to be.
Oh, can we take a look at that?
Yeah.
And you can tell that Joey drives this. Look at all the rock chips here. I can't believe how many rock chips are here.
All the track rash.
Yeah. That's nothing that can't be fixed, but I'm assuming that you redid the hood not too long ago.
Yeah, that's recent. That's another Son of Cobra part.
Oh, what? That's carbon too?
This is also like probably 8 pounds.
So you kind of went on a weight loss with this not too long ago then.
Well, the weight loss has always been the direction of this car, but the old hood drove me nuts. It just didn't fit quite as nice, and I put the Aero latch hood pins in there that are just too modern. So I went with a old school, which just aluminum disc and pin, just like the Cup cars and all that, from basically 964 through 996, 997 Cup cars had all that. So
it looks so good.
A little more original. But there's the oil tank we were talking about.
Wow. I cannot believe how clean this is. It is really, really, really clean.
Yeah, it's pretty clean and sanitary, and it's all purposeful. I mean, I still would love to rewire this portion of the car, and clean that aspect up. But, when you think about how we've moved all the weight, as close to axle center as possible, and a lot of the weight from the rear up to the front, the weight distribution on this car is really good.
So then, the fuel tank is normally over here, though, right?
It's right here, but it goes as far as this far forward, excuse me.
Oh.
And it goes a little bit lower, down through the bottom of the car. But, I wanted to. We made a splitter floor for this, so it's all nice and smooth all the way to axle center again.
Okay, so then is that a custom?
That's a custom fuel cell that we built.
Cell.
Yeah.
And then this is the oil tank.
That's the oil tank.
Lightweight battery.
Yeah.
You have KW competition dampers.
Competition 3-ways, front and rear. Yeah, it's also like the suspension's all, basically 935 stuff. And then we integrated the roll cage up to the front towers and reinforced the towers. So
then the oil lines, one side is return and one side is feeding?
Yep. So it comes through the heater ducts inside the car. So you can't see them inside the car, but where the heat used to be in the rockers is where we ran oil up here. It goes to the thermostat into the cooler up here, which is a giant oil cooler, and then it goes back to the tank.
Oh, got it.
So on a hot day, like a 100-degree day, I tap out before the car does.
Right.
Like the heat, the temperatures, oil temperatures are fine.
I mean, because this being air-cooled, it's not really air-cooled. It's more oil-cooled.
It's oil-cooled, but the reason they say air-cooled is because the cylinders are 6 individual cylinders and they have fins. So that big fan on the back of the motor is drawing air through the deck lid, and it's shrouded over those cylinders, so it pushes through the engine out through the bottom. So that's why they call them air-cooled. But yeah, a majority of the cooling is done with oil.
Right, the majority is from that huge oil cooler that's right up front right here.
Yeah.
It's so big it looks like a radiator.
It looks like a intercooler.
Yeah, or intercooler. Amazing. Really, really cool. And sorry I glossed this over, but this does have like a full cage, or?
Yeah, so this is tied into the roll cage. So this reinforces the towers, and then the towers to the chassis. That's why it's triangulated. And then you see the down tube that goes back to the rest of the cage. So it's a 6-point or 8-point roll cage, something like that. Can't even remember.
Let's talk about the outside. So then wheels, tires, brake setup.
The wheels are BBS E88s. They're 8-inch in the front and 10-inch in the rear. So we've shoehorned a 225 in the front, and that's a Yokohama AO52. Front and rear, and then the rear is a 265. So significantly more tire than the car originally had, but shoehorned in there nice and clean.
What's probably hard to show on camera is that it's a lot of carbon Kevlar inside here.
These cars didn't have fender liners, so I did carbon Kevlar fender liners to clean up the wheels, the spinning wheels, and adding air to the front and having it pass through generates drag and lift, so to clean that up makes it a little slippery, a little faster, and it protects stuff when you have fender liners. So yeah, we hand shaped these flares, by literally the first body shop that worked on it did those custom front and rear. So rather than going too much wider, we just kind of bubbled it and pushed it up for wheel travel, because it is pretty low.
And then also the fact that you're running 18s on such an old vehicle to pretty much fit those brakes. Huh?
Yeah. Originally it was like a 15 or a 16 came on these cars, but yeah, we went with a big Brembo setup, front and rear, put a different master cylinder on. You can see this has been here for years. The temperature sticker that brake engineers will use at the track to see what kind of temperatures you're running in the caliper, and they'll do the paint that on the rotors, but it never generates any heat because it's such a big setup and the car weighs nothing.
Things I love about anti-gravity batteries. Lighter weight. Restart feature with remote key fob. Doesn't leak. No corrosion on the terminals. Longer life. Faster, more efficient charging. More output. Get yours at antigravitybatteries.com. So other body things, is the rear fender
Yeah.
modified at all?
The rear fender is hand shaped as well. We put a 964 composite rocker just to kind of keep it clean looking. The front bumper and the rear bumper were basically knockoffs of the roof Yellowbird. But then we did our own little tidbits, like, we did the grill here to vent some of that exhaust heat. When the light hits right, you can see the titanium muffler back there.
Yeah, so that's the piece that you're talking about off of a 991?
Yep. Yep. The 991 GT2 titanium muffler.
That is just so neat. I can't. Did you just look at it one day and you're like, hey, I think that'll fit?
Yeah, exactly. Then I put a titanium GT3 muffler, which was right in the center. Then I had nowhere to put the license plate, so that also drove me nuts. so finally we came up with the GT2 muffler that comes out the side, and I could go through the bumper again, which is fun. Everyone's always loved that. That's been kind of the theme of this car all along, is going through the bumper with the exhaust outlet.
So cool.
But this is all functional stuff. So this doesn't vent the engine. This vents the exhaust. This vents the exhaust. But also any pressure trapped behind the bumper is released. We also cut these reliefs cleanly into the backside,
so cool.
Kind of like the GT3s.
Yeah.
But
I mean, otherwise this kind of acts as a parachute.
Right.
Right.
And I want to eventually, and maybe I do, maybe I don't. Who knows? But I wanted to. I wanted to do a flat bottom on this car and do a hidden diffuser. So it's again, it never stops. I always have the ideas and want to continue developing it.
So then, one thing I noticed that I didn't notice until I got down lower is all the carbon Kevlar stuff for the firewall too.
Yeah,
huh?
so we cut the firewall out and put an aluminum firewall in, and then we did that. That's actually like a Kevlar lava mat is the brand. So it's actually heat shield too.
Okay.
So this car doesn't have air conditioning. So anything we can do to keep temperature out of the car.
Is this where the normal airbox goes, or what?
That
what
was
goes
the
through
oil
here?
tank.
Okay.
So the oil filter was there, and the oil fill was there, and the tank was out behind the wheel here.
Oh, that is so neat. I just love all the little touches that you've done to make this your own over so many years.
Yeah,
it's like you never stop.
It really, it's the truth. It never stops. This splitter that we designed came off of a 996 GT3. So we shortened it and narrowed it, and then opened up the radiator inlet to be kind of like we first saw that with the 997 GT2 where the splitter went straight in. Obviously some of the race cars did it, but just keeps morphing.
And the thing about this project is you could go just as fast if you get like a 991 GT3, right? Or build up some turbo 911. Yeah. But that's not the point.
The point was just maximizing. It started out as this is the car that I could afford. And with my skill set, being able to modify and build, competition cars originally and now dual use cars, it just has been, my form of expressing what it is that I can do and what I enjoy. So this is still pretty comfortable on the street without, air conditioning or heat, but other than that, like the chassis, there's no major squeaks or rattles. The exhaust is not too loud until you really ask it to be.
But oftentimes when you take this out to the track, specifically the times that you've been out with me at Willow Springs or at Buttonwillow, wherever, this is one of the fastest cars on track, usually.
It is. I'm not necessarily, because I never get enough track time anymore, but when I do get consistent track time, yeah, it's one of the fastest cars out there, typically, because it's a lot. Weight, a lot of people forget about weight, but like I said, 2,300 pounds, that gets around the corners pretty quick, no matter what. But then being that chassis engineering is my background, I've had a lot of really accomplished drivers like, Patrick Long and Jeff Zwart, drive this car, even Dai Yoshihara. They all, like Dai got out of it. It's like, I need 2 days in this car,
to get the most time out of it.
Yeah, and Jeff got out of it and said, I've never had an air-cooled street car with this much grip. Uh-huh. It really does, it scoots, and it's no slouch. He also laughed, Jeff laughed too. He's like, you don't have to wring its neck. You can short shift everywhere because of the torque and because of the limited weight.
So then before we go any further, let's talk about a little bit of your background, right? You've been to Le Mans, you've worked on a winning team at Le Mans, correct?
Yeah, back in my early 20s, I ran in the American Le Mans series as a mechanic and helped with a little bit of the engineering on the car. But we ran the 996 RSRs and 997 RSRs. But my very first year, which was 2005, it was with Patrick Long and Jörg Bergmeister. We actually won the American Le Mans Series championship, the GT2 championship, and beat Porsche with their own car, which was really cool. But yeah, we won the 12 Hours of Sebring. We won Petit Le Mans. We were runner-up at Le Mans. Yeah, we had a lot of good victories.
You're just doing so many different things, and then for you to apply this knowledge to your own street car is just kind of ridiculous. So let's talk about the interior. If you can go open that side. I've seen this car over the years. Pretty much the day I met you, I've seen this car, and I've just seen it evolve, and it's just so wonderful, so clean, done so well, very tasteful. There's something crazy going on here with the pedals. What's going on with the pedals here?
They have false floors right on passenger and driver side, so they're just machined aluminum, to remove any excess material that's not needed, and then just a little pedal kit, and then carbon false floors again below your feet. On that side, on the passenger side, you can see the oil feed line coming out of the oil tank.
Yeah.
And then dipping back into the rocker, back to the engine.
And then this is a 964 rocker.
It started as one, like a composite 964 rocker, but that little shark fin at the fender is gone.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want people already confuse this for a 964 and it's not. So just one of the things to try to keep it a little bit more custom and not so much just straight out of
the cage is nice because it's still a street car, right?
It's low enough door bars that you can get in and out fairly easily. It is a 2-bar setup, which would be legal for most competition.
I'm really surprised that it weighs what it weighs with this extensive cage.
Yeah. Everything else is, you see all that you pointed out, the oil lines, and we keep talking about that. Even the oil lines, I probably removed 50 pounds out of the car with all that XRP HS79 stuff. It's really, really nice stuff, but everything's gone. I mean, everything that's not necessary for the most part is no longer here. I mean, I did do some creature comforts, somewhat recently with an Alcantara little headliner above the cage on the roof, on the dashboard, on the door tops. And we put a little bit of carpet there in the back seat area,
just to clean it up a little bit.
Just to like you throw a sweatshirt back there or a bag, it won't just slide off, and just kind of quiets some of the sound down.
So then you had to remove the roof for you to do this, then, right?
No. So the cage was in and the roof was in and car was painted, and then I decided to do it. So he was able to, the upholstery guy was able to sneak up there with and glue it in place, which was awesome.
This is cool. You have like is that a real roof gauge?
Yeah. That was from one of my project cars that we had to get rid of it and rebuild the tachometer for that car. So I took the donor.
What a cool car. I love this so much. So can we go for a ride then?
We can go for a ride.
Yeah. It's angry. It's upset.
But we can talk though, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a little quieter right now. But like when we drive it, you'll hear it still demands.
I mean, that's what it is. Project Nasty.
Project Nasty.
So cool. It's not hard at all to get in this thing.
No, it's not too bad.
Wow. The door panels. Look at this. Just this detail. So nice.
Yeah, he tucked it.
Very cleanly done.
It's actually attached to the A-pillars and the forehead bar here. It's all attached to the chassis.
So then, how much of the dash did you have to push in to get this bar?
Nothing. There's usually like a little, like kind of like these are, this cap. There's a cap on the bottom that's no longer there. And then these, I just redid in aluminum and powder coated them.
Got it. Oh, wow. Okay. This thing takes off. You're so gentle with the wheel. Like, I love that. So does this have power steering? No.
No, it's all manual. That's what's fun. No ABS, no traction control, no power steering. It's a nice heavy wheel. You know,
Right.
It's all you. You do get arm pump at the track, that's for sure. You're like,
That shifter is pretty serious too.
that's a Wevo shifter, just a stock replacement short shift kit. The Wevo stuff is really nice. That's probably the only remaining original part. Besides, like from when I bought it, the original part to the car, the only thing that's original is the steering rack. And that's been rebuilt.
No radio, nothing to distract you from just the pure driving enjoyment. Is this odometer true or?
Nope.
Oh, well, it's not because the engine's different. But is this
and
on chassis too?
This had white gauges when I got it. And even that odometer didn't work either. I don't know why, but it was, the chassis had what I think 230,000 miles when I bought the car.
Oh.
And it obviously doesn't matter now because everything's been completely redone.
What's interesting to me is it feels weird that it's missing this fifth, which is the clock, right?
The clock is missing.
Jeez. It gets loud so quick.
Like I said, it's quiet when you want it to be, and then when you want it loud, it's loud when you want it to be.
It just has so much torque.
Yeah, we're used to cars that slam you in the seat, and it slams you in the seat, but it's not like the big turbo cars or modern 500 horsepower, GT3s, but it collects speed really quickly. You're just like, wow, all of a sudden, if you wind out third gear, you're already into triple digits.
You just told me something interesting. You're telling me this is for sale now.
Yeah, I've been talking about selling it for about, as long as most people can remember, probably 4 or 5 years. But yeah, it's one of those things where I will not stop working on it. And I do more working on it than actually driving it, which is a shame because this is just so much car. And it is a piece of artwork. It'll break my heart, but I just need a new project. Something that is a little more relevant to our product line, and things that we do day to day. Not many people are going to want to come to me and build a $400,000 air-cooled car. It's just, we're more into the conversions, on the 991s, mostly 991s, but 991, 992, just the modern water-cooled stuff.
Is that how much you would let this go for?
It has a $100,000 engine. To build a proper 100 horsepower per liter engine in these air-cooled it's a 2-valve per cylinder engine, so it's a 12-valve, whereas modern power is that's 4-valve per cylinder. The making that kind of power is $100,000. It's really ridiculously expensive. But yeah, you can see it pays for it, relatively speaking.
All the one-off pieces or the two-off pieces.
Well, the entire car is one-off. We went over a bunch of the things, but we didn't even, we barely scratched the surface. It's hand-shaped flares and like front bumper, rear bumper, splitter, tail, things that you can't buy. The glass, is even, it doesn't have the metal trim in it. It's 964 and 993 glass and trim, and actually an early 60s rear glass, so there's no defrost in it. Lots of things that just, it really, to recreate this for someone would be over $400,000. I think it could in auction with the right people, it could go over 4, but if I did it private in the 3s would make me happy.
The 3s.
Yeah, and I'd love for it to stay in the family, so to speak, or at least get to keep tinkering on it, or It's one of this was my first 911.
Yeah.
You know, first of many, I'm sure. But yeah, I'll regret it, kind of. But I've matured to that point where there's other things that I need to do for the business, and this is just takes up time and money and doesn't get used. So if I put time and money into a modern project, it means more business. You know, it get people excited about the Cayennes. I get people excited about the Safaris and the GT cars. You know, for the track. Like this is a legend. You know, people love it, but it's not necessarily a good business resource. It has been, but now it's just time to move on.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you want to support us directly, go to larrychenprints.com. I print and sign every single one of these. This is the perfect gift, or it's the perfect piece of art for your wall.